I'm not going to lie, the new Street Fighter trailer finally gave me the one thing I've been waiting for, proof that this movie actually understands what people love about Street Fighter. Not just the names, not just the costumes, not just the nostalgia. I'm talking about the tournament, the rivalries, the absurd energy, the larger-than-life fighters, and that global sense of scale that made the games feel legendary in the first place. And now that Paramount has officially unveiled the latest look at the film at CinemaCon 2026, I can finally say this adaptation looks like it wants to swing big. The real question is whether it can land the punch. The new footage confirms that this movie is leaning directly into the worldwide tournament structure that turned Street Fighter into a cultural monster. Instead of feeling small or overly grounded, the story looks built around elite fighters from all over the world, each one bringing a different style, history, and personal agenda into the arena. That part already feels right. This is not supposed to be a quiet, intimate little action movie. Street Fighter should feel global, colorful, dramatic, and just a little bit insane, and the trailer makes that clear fast. After the first footage debuted during the Game Awards 2025, this new preview goes much further and starts laying out the actual spine of the story. Chun-Li appears to be the force pulling several major fighters into the tournament, especially Ryu and Ken, who were once close but have clearly drifted apart before the movie begins. That tension matters, because if this movie gets Ryu and Ken right, it already has the emotional center it needs. Street Fighter works best when the punches matter, but the relationships matter too. One of the biggest reveals is that the film is not hiding from the game's supernatural side. It is embracing it. The trailer confirms special moves straight out of the source material, including Ryu's Hadoken and the dark destructive power of Akuma's Satsui no Hado that may sound obvious. But 4 years game adaptations kept trying to act embarrassed by the very things fans showed up to see. This movie at least seems willing to go there. And honestly, it had to. You cannot make Street Fighter and then pretend these characters are just regular people throwing ordinary punches in a parking lot. The tone is also impossible to miss. Compared with something like Mortal Kombat 2, which is arriving with a much heavier and harsher vibe, this Street Fighter clearly looks lighter, louder, and more willing to have fun with its own weirdness. The trailer throws in jokes about Chun-Li's famously powerful legs, references Ken's time as an MTV celebrity, and even recreates the classic car-smashing bonus stage from Street Fighter 2 that tells me the filmmakers are not simply adapting plot points. They are trying to recreate memories. They want people walking into the theater feeling like their old arcade cabinet just exploded onto a giant screen, and on paper, the cast gives this movie a real shot. Noah Centineo steps in as Ken, Andrew Koji plays Ryu, Kalina Liang takes on Chun-Li, and David Dastmalchian brings Bison to life. That is already a strong mix of physicality, charisma, and unpredictability. The movie also seems to understand that timing matters almost as much as casting. With an October 16th release date and not much direct action competition crowding that exact window, Street Fighter has a genuine chance to pull in curious moviegoers, old school fans, and younger audiences who just want a wild action spectacle in theaters. But here is where I start to hesitate. As someone who grew up playing Street Fighter for years, I've wanted a truly great live-action version for a long time. I still remember watching the 1994 movie as a kid. Was it messy? Absolutely. Was it good? Not really. But seeing those characters in a live-action world still felt exciting when I was young. Then Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li came along in 2009, and for fans like me, that was a brutal letdown. So yes, I want this third attempt to finally get it right. I really do. That is why I can't ignore the one big issue I felt while watching this trailer. Even though a lot of fans are celebrating how ridiculous and over the top it looks, I'm not fully convinced that all of that energy is working in the way people think it is. There is a big difference between a movie that knowingly embraces heightened style and a movie that hides weakness behind noise, references, and irony. And that line can be dangerously thin, After watching the footage, I came away feeling like Street Fighter might be trying a little too hard to prove that it gets the games. There is so much emphasis on the winks, the callbacks, the visual gags, and the exaggerated chaos that I started wondering whether the filmmakers are more interested in showing fans that they know the iconography than in building a world that feels believable on its own. Terms, not realistic, because Street Fighter never needed realism, but believable inside its own rules. That is a huge difference to me. That is where Mortal Kombat, despite its own flaws, had an advantage in 2021. That movie treated its world like it was real to the people inside it. The characters took the danger seriously because survival actually meant something. In this new Street Fighter, I can't shake the feeling that the creative team may be more focused on delivering a knowingly self-aware video game adaptation than on fully immersing us in a living, breathing world where these fighters genuinely exist. If that instinct is wrong, great. I hope it is. Because if this movie can balance spectacle with sincerity, it could absolutely work. The official premise leans into that high-stakes mythology. Set in 1993, the story follows estranged heroes Ryu and Ken Masters as they are pulled back into battle by the mysterious Chun-Li for the next World Warrior tournament. But beneath the tournament lies a deadly conspiracy that forces them to confront not only each other, but the darkest parts of their past. That sounds like the right foundation. It gives the movie room for action, for mystery, and for character conflict. The trailer also loads up on fan-friendly details. Balrog and Zangief appear to overpower Ken, at least for a moment. Cammy and Chun-Li seem headed for some kind of personal collision. Guile reacts to Ryu's Hadoken like he's trying to convince the room that what they're seeing is impossible, which is honestly a smart angle. And yes, the nostalgia is absolutely intentional. Since Street Fighter to hit arcades in 1991 and consoles in 1992, the movie leans hard into that era. MTV references are everywhere, and Ken destroying a sedan in the bonus stage may end up being one of the crowd-pleasing moments of the entire film. So where do I land on all this? I think Street Fighter looks bold, energetic, and much more in tune with the franchise than earlier live-action attempts. I also think the movie may be walking a dangerous line between loving the source material and turning that love into overcompensation. If the action hits, if Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li carry real emotional weight, and if Bison feels like more than just a stylish villain in a trailer, this could be the surprise when nobody saw coming. But if the movie mistakes constant fan service for substance, then all that flashy chaos may wear thin fast. Either way, I can't pretend I'm not curious. This is one of those movies that could crash hard or become a seriously fun crowd favorite, and honestly, that uncertainty makes it even more interesting. If they pull this off, Street Fighter might finally get the live-action adaptation fans have waited decades to see. Street Fighter hits theaters on October 16, 2026, and trust me, when the next trailer drops, we're going to have a lot more to talk about. Stay locked in, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.